Olaf Haraldsson was one of the most fascinating characters featured in the Vikings Valhalla historical drama. Unfortunately though, the way his death was depicted within the series was not only historically inaccurate but also significantly lackluster and unbelievable as well. So, to correct this wrong, I have created this video which will do a deep dive into the death of Olaf Haraldsson by critically analyzing contemporary sources which make reference to the death of this powerful Viking monarch, and by effectively deducing these historical texts, one will come to understand just how inaccurate and lackluster the death of Olaf Haraldsson was in Vikings Valhalla when compared to the epic, bloody and brutal end he faced in real life. But before we begin, don't forget, if you want to learn more about the death of some of history's greatest figures, then subscribe to my channel Historical Exit. Olaf Haraldsson was born in the year 995 AD into a prominent Norwegian noble family, and during his early childhood Olaf found himself immersed within the martial traditions of his time, and with age he quickly developed his expertise in melee combat and the art of war. And throughout his youth he would make forays across the British Isles and Western Europe, successfully raiding the regions and accumulating great wealth, prestige and military accolades for himself. In the year 1010 AD, a pivotal moment would come in Olaf's life, and this Viking would make the profound decision to leave the old gods behind and convert to Christianity and become a follower of Jesus Christ. However, Olaf was not content with maintaining the status quo, and when he became king of Norway in 1015, he made growing Christianity by any means necessary a cornerstone of his kingdom and rule. Unsurprisingly, many powerful noblemen were opposed to how ruthlessly and relentlessly Olaf was enforcing Christian doctrine and religion within Norwegian society. The discontent of these nobles was acknowledged by King Cnut the Great, and his support would lead to the development of a wide-scale rebellion against King Olaf, following which he would eventually be exiled and forced to flee to Kievan for sanctuary. Eventually, Olaf would rebuild his military strength, and with the aid of Swedish king Cnut Jacob, Olaf would attempt to reconquer Norway and reclaim his kingdom from King Cnut. But his rebellion would be unsuccessful, and in the year 1030, during the Battle of Siklestad, Olaf's forces would be defeated and Olaf himself would perish during this battle. But what was the exact cause of Olaf's death, and what wound or killing blow was ultimately responsible for claiming his life? These are the questions that will be considered throughout this video. There are 4 historical texts which make reference to the death of King Olaf Haraldsson, and by critically analyzing these contemporary sources, we will deduce which theory or discourse best explains the manner of death for King Olaf. The historical document which provides the greatest degree of detail in regards to the death of King Olaf is the Heimskringla, written by Snorri Sturluson, an Icelandic historian who lived well over a century after the Battle of Stiklestad. It is crucial to highlight the fact that this historical text was written significantly after the events which they are discussing, which brings into question the validity of the account of Olaf's death provided within the source. But simultaneously, the Heimskringla also highlights the everlasting reputation of Olaf as a fearsome and brave Viking warrior even 200 years after his death. The Heimskringla states that Olaf fought bravely but would eventually be overpowered, and during the course of the battle, Olaf would receive 3 fatal wounds, one to his leg, one to his neck, and a final deadly blow to his stomach. The exact quote is as follows: "Then Thorir Hund struck at King Olaf with a spear, and the blow went to the king's belly. Kalf Arnason struck at him on the neck, and these 3 wounds were fatal for the king." As can be observed, this quote provides a tremendous degree of specificity regarding the exact wounds which resulted in the death of King Olaf. Such an in-depth description could only be ascertained by an individual who was an eyewitness to the events. This description of Olaf's final moments is depicted in nearly an identical manner within the historical document, the legendary saga of Saint Olaf, a 13th century text which states that, "Then Thorir Hund, who was a mighty and powerful man, thrust his spear at King Olaf, and the spear went through the king's belly, causing him great pain. Kalf Arnason, who had once been the king's ally, now struck at him with his sword, delivering a blow to the king's neck. This was one of the mortal wounds that led to King Olaf's death." Both the Heimskringla and the legendary saga of Saint Olaf are Norse accounts of history, and it can be surmised that their depiction of King Olaf's death are possibly the written accounts of an oral tradition, or both sources are aiming to provide a hagiographic depiction of the events leading to Olaf Haraldsson's death. This discourse can be further strengthened by the viewpoint that this minute degree of detail is not provided in any other historical text, such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles or the deeds of the bishops of Hamburg, which were historical documents written much closer to the time period of Olaf's passing. The minimal detail provided in regards to the death of King Olaf in both contemporary historical texts calls into question the accuracy of the discourse being presented within the Heimskringla and the saga of Saint Olaf. Although their premise is indeed plausible and there is strong evidence to suggest that Olaf certainly did perish due to wounds sustained in battle, it is impossible to deduce based off the limited contemporary sources available whether the 3 fatal wounds mentioned in the Heimskringla and the legendary saga of Saint Olaf are embellishments or indeed fact. Therefore, to conclude, King Olaf most certainly did not perish in Jomsburg in single combat against Freydis, as was depicted in Vikings Valhalla, but instead he was defeated in battle against the forces loyal to King Cnut in Norway during the Battle of Siklestad. Later medieval sources argue that King Olaf perished from 3 deadly wounds sustained during melee combat, but this discourse is not present in the sources written nearest to his time of death. However, it is without a doubt factually true that King Olaf perished during his failed attempt to reconquer Norway, but what his exact cause of death was during the Battle of Siklestad is something that has been lost to the sands of time. But let me know in the comments down below how you think King Olaf may have died, and if you found this video to be enjoyable and educational, then please subscribe to my channel Historical Exit, as I post videos every week about the deaths of some of history's greatest figures. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.